What if the biggest reason businesses fail has nothing to do with bad products? Think about that for a moment. Most entrepreneurs spend years trying to improve their product. They improve the logo, the website, the packaging, the marketing, the sales process. And yeah, most of them still fail. Why? Because they never stop to ask a more important question. What game are they actually playing? Imagine opening a coffee shop in a city block that already has 20 coffee shops. You work harder, you open earlier, you stay later, you advertise more, you lower prices, you improve customer service. But every improvement you make can be copied. You are trapped, you are competing, and competition is one of the most misunderstood concepts in business. Most people think competition is healthy. Peter Thiel disagrees. In his book, 0 to 1, he argues that competition destroys profits, destroys innovation, and forces businesses into survival mode. Whether you agree with him or not, one thing is certain. The biggest companies in the world didn't become great because they competed better. They became great because they escaped competition. Google didn't become Google by building the 10th best search engine. Amazon didn't become Amazon by opening another bookstore. Tesla didn't become Tesla by building another gasoline car. They created something different. And that's what this video is really about. Not business, not startups, not technology. It's about learning how to think differently. Because the people who create the future don't see the world the same way everyone else does. Today, we're going to break down 6 ideas from 0 to 1 that still matter in 2026. But we're not going to stop at theory. At the end of every lesson, you'll get a practical exercise, something you can apply immediately, because knowledge is useless if it never leaves your notebook. So, open a document, grab a pen, and let's get to work. The most famous line in the entire book is also the most controversial. Competition is for losers. The first time most people hear that, they reject it immediately, because we've been taught our entire lives that competition is good. In school, we compete for grades. In sports, we compete for trophies. At work, we compete for promotions. Competition feels normal. It feels necessary. It feels inevitable. But Peter Thiel argues that competition creates a hidden problem. It forces everyone to think the same way. Let's look at airlines. Almost every airline sells the same thing: a seat on a plane from one city to another. As a result, they compete on price. And when companies compete on price, profits disappear. Customers win, businesses suffer. Now compare that to Apple. People don't buy Apple products because they're the cheapest. In many cases, they're the most expensive. People buy Apple because they trust Apple. The company escaped the commodity trap. And that's the goal. The moment customers see you as interchangeable, you're in trouble. Now let's bring this closer to home. Think about YouTube. Every day, thousands of creators launch new channels. Most fail, not because they're lazy, not because they lack talent, because they're creating content that looks exactly like everyone else's. Another finance channel, another motivation channel, another AI channel, another business channel. They're entering a crowded market and hoping to win through effort. But effort alone rarely creates an advantage. Differentiation does. This is where most people ask the wrong question. They ask, how can I be better? The smarter question is, how can I be different? That's a completely different game. If you're the 10th person doing something, you're competing. If you're the first person combining ideas in a unique way, you're creating. Think about this channel. The Exec Lab should not become another book summary channel. There are already thousands of those, and instead, it should become the channel that transforms business books into execution systems. Same category, different position, and that difference changes everything. Because people don't remember slightly better. They remember meaningfully different. That's the difference between competition and creation. Now here's your challenge. Open a document right now. Write down your current project, your business, your career, your content, whatever you're building, and answer this question. What makes this meaningfully different from the 10 closest alternatives? Not slightly different, meaningfully different. If your answer is unclear, you don't have a competition problem. You have a strategy problem. And until you solve that, everything else becomes harder. Most people hear the word monopoly and immediately think of giant corporations. They imagine companies controlling entire industries, dominating markets, eliminating competitors. But that's not what Peter Thiel means. Not at all. A monopoly isn't about size. It's about being the obvious choice. Think about Google. There are other search engines, many of them. But when you need an answer, what do? You Google it. You don't compare 10 alternatives. You don't spend 30 minutes evaluating options. You already know where you're going. That's the power of becoming the default choice. Now here's the interesting part. Google didn't start as a monopoly. Neither did Amazon. Neither did Facebook. Neither did Netflix. In fact, all of them started incredibly small. Amazon sold books. Only books. Facebook connected Harvard students. Only Harvard students. Netflix mailed DVDs. Only DVDs. At the beginning, their markets were tiny, but they dominated those markets completely. And that's the lesson most entrepreneurs miss. Everyone wants scale. Very few people want focus. Everyone wants millions of customers. Very few people want to become indispensable to 1,000. But that's where the opportunity lives. Because domination comes before expansion, not after. Imagine you're opening a restaurant. One strategy is to create a menu with 100 dishes, trying to appeal to everyone. The other strategy is to become the best steak restaurant in the city. Smaller market, stronger identity, higher loyalty. Which one is easier to remember? Exactly. The same principle applies to content, business, consulting, coaching, software, everything. The more specific your value proposition, the easier it becomes for people to remember you. And attention is one of the most valuable currencies in the world. Today, people are overwhelmed with options. They're drowning in options. When customers feel confused, they delay decisions. When they clearly understand who you are, they move faster. That's why clarity wins. Now let's apply this to your own project. Ask yourself, who exactly am I trying to help? Not everyone, not anybody who might be interested. Exactly who? What problem do they desperately want solved? What frustration do they experience repeatedly? What result are they chasing? The more precise the answer, the stronger your position becomes. And here's something even more important. The goal isn't to become famous. The goal is to become necessary. Those are very different objectives. Many people chase visibility. Smart entrepreneurs chase relevance, because relevance creates trust. Trust creates loyalty, and loyalty creates growth. Now think about the Exec Lab. This channel doesn't need to become the biggest business channel on YouTube. Not today. It needs to become the most useful channel for people who consume business ideas, but struggle to execute them. That's a much smaller audience, but it's also a much clearer audience. And clarity is where monopolies begin. Now here's your challenge. Open a document and complete this sentence. I help blank solve blank. Don't use vague language. Don't use corporate jargon. Don't try to sound intelligent. Be specific. Keep simplifying until the statement becomes painfully clear. Because if a customer can't immediately understand your value, they won't remember it. And if they don't remember it, they won't choose it. Every monopoly starts the same way. Not by serving everyone, but by becoming indispensable to someone. This may be the most important idea in the entire book. And it starts with a question. A deceptively simple question. What important truth do very few people agree with you on? Take a moment and think about that. Not what everyone agrees on, not what experts repeat, not what social media rewards. What truth do you see that most people ignore? Peter Thiel calls these secrets. And according to him, every great business is built on one. Now, when people hear the word secret, they imagine hidden information. That's not what he means. A secret is simply a truth that hasn't become obvious yet. Something hiding in plain sight. Something most people walk past every day without noticing. Think about Airbnb. The founders believed strangers would sleep in each other's homes. At the time, that sounded insane. Most people thought it was dangerous, unrealistic, impossible to scale. Investors rejected the idea repeatedly. Today, millions of people use Airbnb every year. The secret didn't change. public opinion did. Now, think about Tesla. Years ago, the idea of electric cars dominating the automotive industry seemed ridiculous. People laughed. Experts dismissed it. Competitors ignored it. But Tesla wasn't following conventional wisdom. They were following a different belief about the future. And eventually, the future caught up. This is where most people get trapped. They spend their lives searching for proven opportunities, safe opportunities, validated opportunities. But by the time an opportunity is obvious, the advantage is usually gone. Everyone sees it. Everyone wants it. Everyone is competing for it. The greatest opportunities rarely look attractive in the beginning. In fact, they often look uncomfortable, uncertain, even foolish. That's why most people miss them. Because humans naturally seek social proof. We want confirmation, we want certainty, we want evidence, but innovation happens before certainty exists. That's what makes it innovation. Now let's bring this closer to home. Think about your industry, your profession, your business, your content. What assumptions does everyone accept without question? Maybe everyone believes more content is the answer. Maybe everyone believes bigger audiences create bigger businesses. Maybe everyone believes AI will replace people. Maybe everyone believes success requires more hours. But what if they're wrong, or at least partially wrong? The goal isn't to become a contrarian. The goal is to become curious. Because curiosity leads to discovery, and discovery leads to opportunity. The people who build extraordinary companies don't ask better questions because they're smarter. They ask better questions because they're willing to challenge assumptions. And that's a skill anyone can learn, including you. Now here's your challenge. Create a document called Things Everyone Believes. Write down 10 assumptions about your industry. 10 things that people accept as facts. Then look at each one and ask, what if the opposite were true? Don't judge the answers. Don't edit them. Don't worry about being correct. Just explore. Most of the ideas will be useless. That's normal, but one of them might reveal something everyone else is missing. And that single insight could be worth more than years of following the crowd. Because the future doesn't belong to people who think like everyone else. It belongs to people who see what everyone else overlooks. That's where secrets live, and that's where breakthroughs begin. Most people say they want freedom. Freedom to work when they want, freedom to travel, freedom to spend more time with family, freedom to stop answering to a boss. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't actually want freedom. They want control. And those are not the same thing. Because freedom without systems becomes chaos. This is where many entrepreneurs fail. They leave a job only to create another job for themselves. One that pays less, creates more stress, and follows them everywhere. The business depends on them for everything. Every decision, every customer, every problem, every process. And because of that, they never truly escape. If they stop working, the business stops working. If they take a vacation, growth stops. If they get sick, revenue suffers. That's not a business. That's a dependency. And it's one of the biggest traps in entrepreneurship. Peter Thiel understood something many founders never learn. Great companies are built on systems. Not heroics, not hustle, not working 18 hours a day. Systems. Because systems scale, people burn out. Now let's talk about something that has changed the rules completely. Artificial intelligence. For the first time in history, a single individual can perform work that once required an entire team. Research, writing, design, customer support, data analysis, marketing, automation. The leverage available today is extraordinary, but most people are using AI the wrong way. They're using it to work faster, instead of using it to eliminate work. Think about that. Those are completely different goals. Working faster still requires your time. Eliminating work gives your time back. And time was the most valuable asset you own. Every repetitive task you automate creates capacity. Every system you build creates freedom. Every process you document reduces dependence. The founders who win during the next decade won't necessarily be the smartest. They won't necessarily have the most funding. They won't necessarily work the hardest. They'll build the best systems. Because systems compound, just like investments compound, just like reputation compounds, just like audiences compound, and the earlier you build them, the bigger the advantage becomes. Now think about your own life. How many tasks do you repeat every week? How many decisions do you make repeatedly? How much of your time is spent doing things that could be documented, delegated, or automated? Most people never ask those questions, which is exactly why they remain stuck, busy, overwhelmed, constantly working, yet rarely moving forward. Activity is not progress, and busyness is not productivity. The goal is not to do more. The goal is to create more leverage. Now here's your challenge. For the next 3 days, track everything you do. Every task, every process, every repetitive action. Write it all down, then identify 3 activities that happen again and again. Choose one, just one, and ask yourself, can this be automated? Can AI assist? Can a template replace it? Can software handle it? Don't aim for perfection, aim for improvement. Because every system you create today becomes an asset that keeps working tomorrow. And that's how founders create freedom. Not by working harder, by designing better systems. One of the biggest lies in modern business is that bigger is always better. Bigger audience, bigger market, bigger reach, bigger opportunity. At first glance, that sounds logical. After all, more customers should mean more money, right? Not necessarily. Because large markets attract large competition, and competition attracts noise. Think about social media. Every day, millions of people fight for attention. Millions of posts, millions of videos, millions of opinions. Everyone wants to go viral. Everyone wants massive reach. Everyone wants everyone. And that's exactly why most people fail. They're chasing attention instead of relevance. Now let's look at the opposite strategy. Imagine a creator who serves everyone interested in business. Then imagine a creator who serves people who read business books, but struggle to apply them. Which message is clearer? Which audience feels more understood? Which creator is easier to remember? Exactly. The smaller audience often creates the bigger opportunity because specificity creates connection, and connection creates trust. Peter Thiel calls this starting with a small market. I call it micro-domination. The idea is simple. Don't try to become known everywhere. Become known somewhere. Dominate a corner of the market so completely that people immediately associate that problem with your solution. This is how almost every successful company started. Amazon didn't begin by selling everything. They sold books. Facebook didn't connect the world. They connected one university. PayPal didn't target every customer. They focused on a specific group of power sellers. Small market, deep penetration, then expansion. Most entrepreneurs try to reverse the process. They chase expansion first, and domination never happens. Because focus feels uncomfortable. Focus means saying no. No to opportunities, no to customers, no to distractions, no to ideas that don't fit the strategy. And that's hard, because human beings hate missing out. But every great business is built on strategic exclusion. The ability to say, this is for us. And equally important, this is not for us. The narrower your focus, the stronger your position becomes. Think about luxury brands. Think about specialist consultants. Think about elite athletes. Their power comes from specialization, not generalization. Now let's make this practical. Imagine you own a gym. Most gyms market themselves the same way. Fitness for everyone. Weight loss, strength, health, general promises. Now imagine a gym that serves only busy professionals over 40. Everything changes. The marketing changes, the language changes, the programs change, the experience changes. And suddenly, the business becomes memorable because it's specific. The same principle applies to your career, your business, your content, your personal brand. If you try to appeal to everyone, you become invisible. If you deeply understand a specific group, you become valuable. And value always beats visibility. Now here's your challenge. Open a document. Answer these 3 questions. Who is my ideal customer? What problem keeps them awake at night? Where do they already spend their time? Don't guess. Research, observe, listen. Find the communities where these people already gather. Facebook groups, LinkedIn communities, Discord servers, Reddit forums, industry events. Go there. Pay attention, because the market is constantly telling you what it wants. Most people simply aren't listening, and that's your opportunity. The goal is not to dominate the world. The goal is to dominate your corner of it. because that's where every great business begins. Most people make decisions based on the next 30 days. Successful founders make decisions based on the next 10 years. That sounds simple, but it's one of the rarest skills in business. Because human beings are wired for short-term rewards. We want quick wins, quick money, quick results, quick validation. And the modern world makes that temptation even stronger. Every day, there's a new trend, a new platform, a new opportunity, a new business model, a new promise of easy success. And many people spend their entire lives chasing the next thing. They jump from opportunity to opportunity, from strategy to strategy, from platform to platform, always moving, never compounding. The problem isn't lack of effort. The problem is lack of patience. Peter Thiel argues that the most valuable companies are built by people who think far beyond the present moment. They ask different questions. Instead of asking, "How can I make money this month?" they ask, "How can I create something valuable 10 years from now?" Those questions lead to completely different decisions. Think about Netflix. When Netflix started, they weren't trying to win the quarter. They weren't trying to maximize short-term profits. They were building infrastructure, technology, distribution, customer relationships, capabilities that would matter years later. And eventually, those investments transformed an industry. The same thing happened with Amazon. For years, people criticized Amazon for prioritizing growth over profit. Many investors didn't understand the strategy. But Jeff Bezos wasn't optimizing for the next earnings report. He was optimizing for the future. And that's why Amazon became Amazon. Now let's bring this closer to home. Most people treat their careers like a series of transactions, a salary, a promotion, a bonus. But extraordinary careers are built like assets. Skills compound, relationships compound, reputation compounds, knowledge compounds. The same principle applies to businesses, and it applies to content creation. Think about YouTube. A viral video can generate attention, but attention disappears. An audience generates opportunities, and opportunities compound. That's why smart creators don't chase views, they build trust. Because trust survives algorithm changes. Trust survives trends. Trust survives competition. Trust becomes an asset, and assets create leverage. This is one of the most important distinctions in business. Income is not an asset. Revenue is not an asset. Attention is not an asset. Assets continue creating value, even when you're not actively working. A brand is an asset. A community is an asset. Software is an asset. Intellectual property is an asset. Systems are assets. And the stronger the asset, the stronger the future. Now ask yourself something. If someone offered to buy your project 10 years from now, what exactly would they be buying? Your audience, your brand, your technology, your systems, your community, your expertise. What is the asset underneath the activity? Because activity creates motion. Assets create wealth. Most people spend years building activity. Very few spend years building assets. And that's why the outcomes are so different. Now here's your challenge. Imagine it's the year 2036. Your business is thriving. Someone offers to buy it for millions. Why? Write down the answer. What makes it valuable? What has been built over the previous decade? Now look at your answer and ask yourself, what can I do this week to strengthen that asset? Not next year, not next month, this week. Because the future isn't built in a single moment. It's built through small decisions, repeated consistently over time. The people who win the decade don't think differently once. They think differently every day, and eventually, those decisions compound into something extraordinary. We've covered competition, we've covered monopolies, we've covered secrets, systems, focus, and long-term thinking. But none of that matters if nothing changes after this video. Because information is not the problem. The internet is overflowing with information. Books, podcasts, courses, videos, advice. Most people don't need more knowledge. They need more execution. Think about it. How many books have you read that you never applied? How many ideas sounded brilliant, but never made it into your daily life? How many times have you felt motivated, only to return to the same habits a few days later? That's the real challenge. Not learning, implementing. And that's why the Exec Lab exists. Not to help you consume more ideas, to help you execute them. So let's turn everything from 0 to 1. into a practical 7-day challenge. A challenge designed to force action. Not someday, this week, day 1. Identify where you're competing. Look at your business, your career, your content, your project. Where are you doing exactly what everyone else is doing? Write it down, because you can't escape competition until you recognize it. Day 2. Define your niche. Not your industry, not your market, your niche. Who specifically do you serve? The clearer the answer, the stronger your position becomes. Day 3. List 10 assumptions in your industry. Things that everyone accepts as true. Don't overthink it, just write them down. Day 4. Challenge those assumptions. Ask yourself, what if the opposite were true? Most ideas will be useless. That's fine. You only need one valuable insight. Day 5. Map your workflow. Everything you do, every task, every process, every repetitive action. Visibility creates improvement. You can't optimize what you can't see. Day 6. Automate one thing, just one, not 10, not 20. One, a report, a process, a workflow, a repetitive task. Create leverage. Free up time. Build a system. Day 7. Define your decade asset. What are you really building? A brand, a community, a business, software, expertise. What asset will still matter 10 years from now? Write it down, because clarity creates direction, and direction creates momentum. Now, here's the important part. Don't just listen to this challenge, complete it. Most people won't. Most people will close this video and move on. That's why most people stay exactly where they are. Execution creates separation. Not intelligence, not talent, not motivation. Execution. The gap between where you are today and where you want to be is usually hidden inside the actions you're avoiding. So start. Not perfectly, not when everything is ready, not when the timing feels ideal. Start now. One exercise, one page, one decision, one step. Because the future isn't built all at once. It's built one action at a time. And the people who win are usually the people who started before they felt ready. Most people will finish this video, feel inspired, and do absolutely nothing. Not because they don't understand the ideas, not because they're not intelligent, because action is uncomfortable. Thinking is easy, planning is easy, learning is easy, execution is hard. And that's exactly why execution creates results. Right now, you know something most people don't. You understand that competition is a trap. You understand the power of monopolies. You understand why secrets matter, why systems create freedom, why small markets can become massive opportunities, and why long-term thinking beats short-term reactions. But none of that knowledge has any value until it changes your behavior. Because ideas don't change lives, actions do. Think about where you want to be 5 years from now. Not next week, not next month, 5 years. What kind of career do you want? What kind of business do you want? What kind of life do you want? Now ask yourself a harder question. Are your current actions moving you toward that future or away from it? Because the future is not something that happens to you. The future is something you build. One decision at a time, one system at a time, one insight at a time, one action at a time. And that's the real lesson of 0 to 1. The future doesn't belong to people who copy. It belongs to people who create. To people who see opportunities others ignore. To people who think independently. To people who build. So here's my challenge to you. When this video ends, don't open another video. Don't scroll social media. Don't look for another book. Open a document. Complete the exercises. Choose one action and start. Because one action executed today is worth more than 100 ideas stored in your head. The people who succeed aren't necessarily the smartest. They aren't necessarily the most talented. They're simply the ones who act, and if you've made it this far, you already have everything you need to begin. Now, it's your move. Thank you for spending this time with me. If you found value in this episode, subscribe to the Exec Lab. Every week, we take powerful ideas from the world's best books and transform them into practical execution blueprints. No fluff, no theory for the sake of theory, just ideas you can actually use. Until next time, stop consuming, start building, and let's get to work.